strategies from them. So we learned from Tanya. We picked up the 50-30-20 strategy to help us manage our financial planning. We heard from Dr. Hilary, and we heard about her SWOT analysis. We heard from Sammy, who shared with us a pyramid with alternate ways within which we can earn different streams of income. So I'm hoping that many of you have joined us for the second day today. If you haven't, please don't worry. There are links available, and you will be able to catch up on the conference that was held yesterday online. So please let me know where you're joining from. Let us welcome our speakers. Let us set tonight on fire. Let's make our speakers know that we are ready to learn from them. We have an amazing panel tonight. We have got 4 very, very, very incredible speakers. And today they are going to be building on the theme of yesterday. So as you know, we are talking about financial empowerment. We're talking about wealth building strategies. Yesterday, we talked about building wealth. Today, we will be digging deeper into managing our wealth. And all in all, after the 2-day event, you will have the tools you need. You will be equipped with what you need to better yourselves. And as Noella, our founder, pointed out yesterday, when us women do something, the impact of that is more than a proportional impact. And it helps not only ourselves, it helps those around us, and we leave a legacy behind us. I am sure I did not do as much justice as Noella did when she explained this, but I hope you get the gist of what I'm trying to say. So come on, let us know, where are you joining in from? I have Juliet. And yes, Juliet, I remember you from yesterday. Thank you for kicking us off on the chat. Welcome from Nigeria. Welcome again. And please, everybody, feel free to use the chat tonight. That is going to be, as I said yesterday, our tool of choice. We need to let our speakers know we are here in full force. They will be communicating with us on screen, but they will also be answering your queries on the chat. And I'm sure they are as eager to help us all get better. So please tell me, how did you find yesterday? Did you enjoy yesterday? Oh, Sandra, good evening from Nigeria. Daisy from Nigeria, welcome everybody. Those who joined us yesterday, tell us, how did you find it? What did you learn? What strategies did you take away? I think one of the things I took away was having a positive mental attitude, being open, communicating with others. I'm sure our speakers tonight are going to build on that theme and arm us with even better strategies. So who do we have joining again? We have Fola Shade from Lagos, Nigeria. Happy to be here, and we are happy to have you here. Thank you all for joining. Thank you for honoring us with your presence. The very fact that you have signed up to this conference shows you are committed. Sandra, thank you so much for the lovely compliment. Yesterday was explosive, and I am looking forward to experiencing great speakers tonight. Yes, you most certainly will, and we guarantee it. This is the place to be. We are going to finish on our second day of the conference with a bang, and it is going to be phenomenal. And we are more than happy to have any feedback that you have following yesterday's session and today's session. I must make a special shout out to those who on our group have been complimenting the sessions yesterday, have been complimenting, rightfully so, all our speakers from yesterday. Again, tell me, what was your takeaway? Share with us. I'm sure all of us took different takeaways from all 3 sessions yesterday. So feel free, share. Come on to the chat. Let me know where you're coming from. I have definitely got representation from West Africa. Do I have representation from the UK? I noticed a few names pop up earlier that sound familiar. So if you are from the UK, feel free to drop it in the chat. Let's let our speakers know you are here. You are here today, and you are ready, and you are raring to go. Yesterday we had East African representation. Hello, Raz from London. Absolutely. Somebody who I have utmost respect for. We look forward to hearing from you later today, Raz. That's great. Do we have East African representation? Right, Juliet. Fantastic. I learned to have a positive attitude no matter the state my finances are in. That is so important, isn't it? Life is too short to not be positive about it. No matter where we are, positive attitude gets us far. A Mobile Group Academy from Nigeria. Noella, your takeaway. We need to create at least 7 streams of income. Absolutely. I think the pyramid that Sammy put on yesterday was so informative, so educational, and definitely inspirational. And of course, the message he said, make sure you build your base first and then build on a strong foundation to then have a financial strategy that sets you up in life. I have Martha from Uganda. Karibuni, Martha. Nice to have you here. Nice to have a fellow East African. Apologies, just going to see. I think I might be having some technical issues. Can I just double check you can hear me? Can everyone hear me? Yes, I'm seeing some nodding.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
you.
Thank you. Apologies. I always get a bit worried at this time when I have little pop-ups coming up. Right. So I think we are inching closer to our kickoff. Thank you, Folashade. Thank you so much. I am going to invite Weluche just to give us a few words, please, before we kick off tonight's sessions.
Thank you so much, Hina. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to day 2 of the Growth Conference. Thank you all so much for joining in. For those that are just joining on today, my name is Weluche Aguchibe. It's my honor to be your host tonight. Yesterday, we had an incredible session with leaders from various fields talking to us about how women can be better empowered financially. The essence of this session today is to share more insights on how more women will be empowered. We have incredible speakers today who are going to be taking us through financial strategies, budgeting, the true meaning of wealth. Because beyond the dollars, beyond the cents, wealth goes beyond money. We're going to be talking about well-being and how to empower women to be the best version of themselves. At the end of today's session, we want to see women and more women empowered. We want to see more women shatter the glasses. We want to see more women get financial power. So it's my pleasure to welcome our speakers. We have Raz, Wayne, Catherine, and Vida. We can't wait to hear them out, to see what they have to offer today. Yesterday was amazing, and we know that today is even going to be more loaded. Thank you, everyone. You're all welcome to the session. Sit back, relax, and enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you, Weluche. You hit the nail on the head. We have a powerhouse of speakers. And before we kick off, I would like to firstly say a very, very big thank you to our listeners for joining us. Without you, we wouldn't be here. I'd also like to say a massive thank you to our esteemed speakers and, for sharing your time, your expertise, your knowledge. Again, we wouldn't be here without you. To you, Weluche, as our host and organizing the Growth Conference UK, thank you. Of course, to Noella, without whom nothing would be here. You are the founder of our Growth Conference, Noella. And of course, our fantastic tech team who are supporting us from behind. So Sandra and Emmanuel, a big shout out to you guys. So without further ado, let's kick off today's order of business. I have great pleasure in introducing to you Vida Echetabu, who is a certified wealth manager. Vida today is going to be speaking to us about VUCA-proofing your wealth. For those of you who, similar to me, have no idea what VUCA means, I'm sure many of you do, I didn't, and I spoke to Vida yesterday, and I said, what does this stand for? And she goes, it stands for volatility, uncertainty, chaos, and ambiguity, and proofing our wealth against that. So let me introduce Vida to you, and then I'm sure she will be able to tell you a lot more about this. So Vida is a distinguished wealth manager with nearly 2 decades of experience in the financial services industry, specializing in high net worth wealth management, business development, strategy, and communication. Vida has demonstrated exceptional professional acumen and a track record of success. Having excelled as a private and investment banker, strategic relationship manager, wealth manager, and regional manager, Vida has navigated various sectors, including SMEs, conglomerates, federal, and Lagos State, with poise and effectiveness. Noteworthy achievements include spearheading the pioneering projects such as the Stanbic IBTC Pension Quarterly HNI newsletter and the Ladies at the Table Empowerment Series for female clients. Vida has also played a pivotal role as an anchor and compere for diverse Stanbic IBTC programs and initiatives. In her role as the founder and consultant general of Fourth Avenue Limited, a reputable business consulting LLC, Vida leverages her expertise, experiences, and networks to deliver tailored solutions of the highest caliber to clients. Drawing on its pillars of advisory, brokerage, and communication, Fourth Avenue serves clients across a variety of industries, including financial services, venture capital, manufacturing, and media. So Vida, welcome. We look forward to learning from you. Over to you, Vida.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Hina. Thank you very much for that very warm welcome. And while I am speaking, I am going to go right ahead and share my slides. All right, please confirm that we can all see my slides.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so you guys know that I'm not always well behaved. So I need some activity in the chat room. I need emojis. I need reactions. I need us to do like we normally do. That's how we say it in Lagos, Nigeria. Let's do like we do. The majority of us are from there. Okay, so let's get it all going. And we're used to things being quite intense in Nigeria. So VUCA proofing is not a big deal. We'll take it up. All right. Okay, so I'm speaking this evening on VUCA Proof Your Wealth, which is something that I think whether you're in West Africa, whether you're in, thank you very much, I'm seeing emojis, yes. Whether you're in West Africa, whether you're in East Africa, whether you're in the UK, in the US, South Africa, wherever you are, we're all dealing with what we would say is a VUCA situation, okay? And that means that we're dealing with volatility, we're dealing with uncertainties, we're dealing with chaos, we're dealing with ambiguity. And that is me just saying that, you know what, we're together on this journey. Nobody has it all totally figured out. And so what the objective of this session, my session is that by the time we are done with this session, I would want to believe that you would be able to identify the behaviors that have put us in a situation that has exposed our wealth to VUCA. And so you would identify those behaviors and the ones that require correction or a little bit of improvement. The other thing you would also achieve, I expect you to achieve at the end of this session, is that you will identify actions that will help you VUCA-proof. So one is to identify the bad behavior that got us into this situation, and the other would be to identify the tools that should get us out of that situation. Those are the two objectives of this session, okay? Now, this is VUCA, and hopefully this image paints that picture that we want to secure our resources as possible, as much as possible, okay? Now, if you leave me, I can keep talking because wealth is something that I truly enjoy. You know, I love making money. I love talking about money. Money is my friend. I am friends with money. So this is my playground. I'm happy when there's money in the conversation. I wake up from sleep immediately, okay? All right, so what I have decided to do is talk about it under three broad syndromes. And the first of the syndromes would be arresting the bandwagon. Now, if we are honest with ourselves, their investment decisions, their wealth decisions that we made that resulted purely because everybody appeared to be doing it. Everybody was, talking like they knew about it, like the investment started in their backyards, and they discussed it on their coffee tables, and everybody was doing it, and it was all that. And so we joined the bandwagon, and that's a dangerous thing to do. Now, the truth is, in order to make investment decisions, we typically need to hear about it from somewhere, no doubt. However, we should be cautious about the bandwagon. Now, the question I would ask is, why do we fall for this bandwagon thing all the time? And the answer is simple. FOMO. Who knows what FOMO is? Put it in the chat room. Do we know what FOMO is? Put it in the chat room. It's fear of missing out. I think I'm getting some feedback somewhere. If the admin could please just check amongst the participants and mute, I would appreciate that very much.
Thank you. We possibly have a very excited child eager to learn very early on, Vida. Why not?
About money.
About money. Absolutely.
I know. All right. And FOMO does something. It puts you under pressure because you are afraid of missing out on this big magical investment. Whether it's a good investment or a bad investment, the bandwagon has that effect. Look at the image on the screen. It's larger than life. It's attractive. It's so loud. It's noisy. You just get sucked into the vibes of that particular investment. And it puts you in a precarious situation because you end up possibly going into debt because you really want to just be among, you want to belong to this, this movement. You want to be amongst the people that are said, they were the first movers advantage. They're the ones who got in early, and all. But in wealth management, there is a place for speed, but precision and accuracy override speed in wealth management. Precision, accuracy, sustainability, they all override speed. Speed has its place, but no need speeding into a situation that can land you in debt or loss. Now, again, another thing that the bandwagon effect could do is that you are not able to match your resources accordingly. Again, so what happens when you need money now, but you will have money in 2 weeks? So there will be a consistent gap in your flow because you're just wanting to rush in and get into this investment because you do not want to miss out. Now, if you listen to me carefully, and this is what will be on the screen per topic. You're not going to see bullet points of a breakdown somewhere because I want you to engage with me. So you're going to hear me talk about the problems, the costs, and in that same breath, you will hear me talk about the solutions as well, because this is essentially a masterclass. There is very little I can cover in detail here, but you will get value for your time if you pay attention. So put away distractions and let's do this. Now, the bandwagon effect does two things. It can lead you to debt. So you also need to understand your cash flow. You can find out about a good, solid investment, but it's important you understand your cash flow. It's also important that you understand your risk appetite, because when things are sounding so amazing and wonderful and you want to get in there, and when they're talking about it, a lot of times they sell the upsides, they don't sell the full picture. And it's important that you know the full picture because for every reward, there is responsibility. So a lot of times, and in my career, we have seen people say, oh, they didn't know, they were not aware, you know, they just, it didn't, you know, nobody told them because they jumped on the bandwagon. They didn't stop to ask the right questions. Okay, so for sake of time, I'm going to talk about the next syndrome, which is the kitchen sink syndrome. A lot of us, our investments are as modeled up, tacky, untidy, exactly like how this kitchen sink looks in this image. And the reason I say so is because this kitchen sink syndrome is closely tied to multiple streams of income and closely tied to diversified portfolio, which are principles of wealth management. Sammy discussed yesterday about multiple streams of income. Now, there is a fine line between multiple streams of income and the kitchen sink syndrome. Now, let me break this down a little bit. A lot of us have found ourselves in situations like this as a result of the first thing we discussed, the bandwagon effect. So we have, you know, invested in all manners of little things here and there. Oh, they said this is good, you just put a little money there. Oh, you said this is wonderful, you put a little money there. And all we're doing is essentially speculating without a method, without a plan, without an agenda. And that is, that's almost like gambling in a manner of speaking, because you just want to put out things so that just in case that's the one that, you know, strikes gold, you're there. But when you diversify your portfolio, it's meant to have, there's a story it has to tell. There's a story it should tell. And the story can change for different phases of our lives. But nonetheless, there should be a story. This kitchen sink that we are looking at tells no story other than irresponsibility and untidiness and carelessness, really. There's no other story this kitchen sink is telling us. And so in addressing the kitchen sink, you have to know what it is you have or what it is you want to get into in terms of investments. Then you also need to know why you want to get into those particular types of investments. And then you need to also be aware of the timeline or the seasons for each of those investments. Now, I paint a picture for you. When somebody wants to invest in, let's assume, shares or stocks, and the person is in their 20s, in their 30s, even in their 40s, they would know that the value they would get, the returns, the reward, the yield, all those things speak to the benefits of investing in shares or stocks, as the case may be. They would know that it comes a little bit further down the line, generally speaking, because share stocks are all long-term investments and have high volatility, high risk. Now, if I see somebody who wants to invest in stocks in their 50s and 60s, and they do not have a very robust financial status, I would ask them to apply caution. Because how long would they be willing to wait in order to get the benefits of that investment? So again, it will boil back to, why are you doing this, when, or why are you doing this, madam? It could be because they're planning for their children. Then that makes some sense. So you see why we have to go back to the why of your investment and what you're getting into. You must settle down and curate, okay? And then the next thing I will talk about is the grilling, the microwave bias. Now, this is where a lot of people have, in this fast-paced world that we're living in, we just wake up one morning and somebody posts something on Instagram and says, oh, I did this, and in 3 months, I had hit $100,000 US. I became a millionaire essentially in 1 year, you know, and that's like expecting your wealth to be as robust and juicy as the chicken below, made at the speed of a popcorn. It doesn't match. I agree that there are exceptions. There are people who time, chance, opportunity, everything just happened for, boom. But those are exceptions. And those are exceptions based on the information they have told us as well. We often don't have the full picture. So I'm yet to find a chef worth their salt who has made a tasty, delicious chicken in a microwave. I'm yet to find that person. They may thaw it from the freezer in the microwave, but when they want to make or cook the chicken, it's never in the microwave. Never in the microwave. They may reheat it if it's already made in the microwave, but it's never in the microwave. And that tells us about the journey of wealth. Now, a number of people have been vocarized with their wealth when it pertains to this thing, get rich quick schemes, where they tell you, if you just get in today, get out tomorrow. I put in 50,000 Naira, I put in 500 pounds, I put in $500, and within 2 weeks, I had this. A lot of times it is highly risky and often ends in heartbreak. Now, again, I'm speaking on a very general, very general basis. There are investments, if depending on your risk profile, that can yield you certain things. But I have done a little bit of behavioral finance. The average human being doesn't remember the profits they have made when they make just one loss. The average human will keep recalling and, mourning the loss of $5,000, even though they have made $500,000. And so to monitor this, you must pause. There is a place for self-control. You must tell yourself that I want to watch my cash flow. I want to find out more about this investment. I want to address certain concerns. Now, let me tell you a little story, because I like to paint pictures. It breaks it to life. I had a client many years ago when I was still in paid employment, and for him to have been my client, then you would know that he had quite a lot of money. There's a high net worth individual. And, once in a while, he'll come and say, Vida, you people's rates are not doing, as great and not as competitive, and this and that, and that, and that he was going to move his money. So one day he showed me one flyer that they told him about this, and he's going to do this and that and that. And I looked at this flyer carefully. On that flyer, they gave him returns above industry rate, returns above what the government was giving, above every known, benchmark available. And I asked him, I said, sir, if you need to move your money, I will advise you not to, but the decision ultimately remains yours. However, just before you move, because I've looked at this thing you've told me, they haven't said where they are investing your money in order to give you these returns. They haven't said what they do and where it is. And I had the conversation with him. I said, look, just ask them for these questions. Make these inquiries. Let's not be so triggered by, oh, the returns is going to be 50%, especially when it's also not a brand that you recognize that has also been approved by regulatory bodies. Let's just suffice to say that he never came back to me with that information. He never moved his money. If anything at all, he inflowed additional funds, which I was tempted to, ask him to say, but I felt that it would jar on his pride, so I left it alone. And I believe that him and I both had a full and firm understanding. Now, these are key things that I would like for you to go away with. That in as much as you're trying to diversify, in as much as you're trying to get multiple streams of income, in as much as you're trying to make sure that you are secure and that the inflation isn't eaten away or tax isn't eaten away at your wealth, note that not every investment is for you. Not every investment is for you because some of those investments will not match your risk profile. And you would not be able to sleep at night. It's critical that the investments that we make should help us sleep at night and actually not keep us awake at night. Another thing you must note and should note is that not every investment is for you now. Meaning that if your cash flow does not allow for it at this particular point in time, it can wait a little bit. And apart from your cash flow, it is also important that you understand the reward cycle of that investment so that you know when you're expecting to get profits. For instance, again, if you do shares or treasury bills, you know that you're either you get dividends annually, biannually, or you get your discount notes annually or biannually. And then after everything is said and done, you are the ruler of your own life. Of course, aside from the Lord, you are the governor of your own affairs. So you need to tell yourself that you must mature. When we were children, we behaved like children. Now we are adults, getting our acts together, cleaning up and showing up the right way, then we will behave accordingly. So we must mature. The next thing is, I know most of us grew up hearing cash is king, cash is king. It's been updated. Cash flow is now king. Because if you run a business, for instance, you would realize that it's not just cash, it's having cash when you need it. When you need money for an investment, or you need money for salaries, you need money for obligations. And even if you don't run a business, if it's time for your house rent, if it's time for your mortgage payment or your car notes, you need it at specific times. And that speaks to cash flow. Again, remember the what, the why, the when of investments. And now this particular one is more targeted towards the older people amongst us, the more mature. But it doesn't hurt to start early. Consolidation is key. After this session, I hope that we will go back and create a spreadsheet, a notebook, whatever, and start detailing all our respective investments that we have done everywhere. What's happening in the chat room? That place is looking quiet. What's happening there? Please, I need responses and reactions there. Anyways, yes. go back and track all your many investments and know the ones that you're going to build up and infuse into, and the ones that you want to let go of. Take the returns. Yay, I'm seeing reactions. Take the returns and invest in places that are relevant to you now or where you want to go. There is no need having investments that do not match your realities now. Maybe you bought those investments 20 years ago when you started working, or 15 years ago, or 10 years ago, or you have now even relocated. It's no longer relevant to you. Review and consolidate. And now that brings me back to what we said the objectives would be. By a show of hands, by comments in the chat room, please confirm that you are now able to identify the behaviors that got you into an exposed situation, you and your funds. And then also confirm that as a result of this time together, you now are able to identify specific actions, be it 1, 2, or 3, or more, that you can take in order to VUCA-proof your investments. I will pause now for some questions, or a question after now, but these are my handles. Please do well. Fourth Avenue and Vida are quite active on LinkedIn. So if you search Fourth Avenue, if you search Vida Echetabu, you will find me there. If there are questions you may have, or opportunities or places you think that I can provide the services of trainings, consultation, strategy, those are my numbers, business and personal, right there. And if you prefer to send an email for you at fourthavenuegroup.com. And in case you just want to find out more generally about Fourth Avenue, that's our website. Okay. I would go back here and ask for questions.
Thank you, Vida. Very, very powerful stuff, Vida. I think I loved your analogies with the microwave and the kitchen sink. It really brings it to the fore. But I think your final slide for me was it. Consolidation is key. I think we have time for a quick question, Vida, if that's okay. And it's actually from one of our listeners in the chat. And they say, kindly re-explain the consolidation concept, please.
Okay, beautiful. The consolidation concept is simple. In the course of your career, maybe you even a trust fund baby, I don't know. You have probably bought, let's say, a piece of land here, some shares there, you have mutual funds there, you have sprinkling of investments all over the place. Maybe you even bought it when you were not in your current location. Now is the time to settle down with a piece of paper and a pen, or your laptop or your tablet, whichever is best for you, and identify all your investments. And then look at your life where you are right now. Look at your life where you want to be in the next phase, and then the phase after then, vis-a-vis what the investments you have are. If there is anyone there that is no longer relevant to your life anymore, it was relevant in the past, dispose of it, get whatever value you can from there, and invest in what is relevant to you now and where you are going in the future. Again, it's not a one-off thing. It's something that you are going to have to review every couple of years. Maybe every 5 years would be a fair enough average, because again, we live life in phases. I hope that has helped.
That most certainly has. Thank you, Vida. And Vida, there are a few more questions on the chat, and I know we are out of time, but if you would be so kind as to highlight them on the chat and respond to them, we would be
Okay.
extremely grateful. Can I have a
Yes.
round of applause, everybody, for Vida? And please show your reactions on the chat. As Vida said, we need to have these reactions coming in for all our speakers. Thank you. Thank you again, Vida.
Thank you.
I'd like to move on to our next two sessions, I'll say. So our next two sessions are complementary sessions, and they are linked, and they are going to be presented to us by none other than Wayne and Raz. We will be covering with Wayne, we will be covering budgeting, tracking of budgets, the advantages of doing so, learning the process, the theory behind it. And Raz will then be giving us implementation examples of said budget tracking. So if I can introduce Wayne first, and I believe Wayne and Raz that both of you will be inputting into each of your sessions. So thank you. We will be getting double the expertise in each session. So Wayne, welcome Wayne. Wayne Alexander is an interim chief executive officer at Redbridge Sports and Leisure. He's a seasoned professional with over 3 decades of senior management experience in the leisure industry. He's currently serving as the interim CEO at Redbridge Sports Centres Trust Limited. He is known for his strategic leadership, inclusive management style, and strong commitment to team development and community engagement. Welcome, Wayne. I'll hand over to you to teach us about budgets and tracking budgets, please.
Well, welcome. Let me just get my slides and share the screen first. And then if we can confirm, Hina, that everyone can see the screen.
We can. Thank you, Wayne.
Lovely. Well, first of all, Hina, thank you for the kind introduction. I'm honoured to speak on such a global platform as the Growth Conference UK. And I'd like to welcome everyone to my talk on financial goal setting. Specifically, I'll be talking about the essential components to effective budgeting. But I will be partnering with Raz Gohil, who is the next speaker. Raz is a global financial expert. Raz will be covering also financial goal setting and summarizing some of what I've said. And then she will go into some further detail, some real life practical applications. So I would like to start by talking about my journey that led to me using budgets. For me, it started at a young age. I had always watched my parents work hard, like many of us, and they kind of were able to accomplish the things they did. They traveled to England from the Caribbean. They were part of the Windrush generation. They came to England because they wanted a better life, to provide not just for themselves, but their parents, their siblings, and their extended family. So they got jobs and they were able to buy a house for their growing family. There were 3 of us, 3 children they had. They were able to buy vehicles so they could travel from and to work. Both worked incredibly long hours, over 50 plus hours for many years. We often really didn't go on many holidays. And when we did, it would be to go back to the Caribbean to see our family. Now, my parents over many years, probably like many others, what they did is they sent barrels or steel drums, as probably people will know it, sent drums of food, clothing, and everyday items back to their family. And they did that for most of their work in life, because it wasn't just about providing for themselves, it was providing for the wider family. So they worked so hard. And funny enough, I looked at them and I wanted to achieve the things that they did. I wanted to be able to provide for them. I wanted to provide for my brothers and my extended family. And I think my mum saw this in me And at a young age, she said to me, you will always need to work harder than anyone else just to get noticed. And she said, save your money. That was the golden ticket, save your money. Now, they never really kind of described the method or techniques they use to accomplish all their financial goals. But I just knew I wanted to at least accomplish what they did. But fortunately, at the age of 19, I spoke to a financial consultant who actually gave me the best advice. He said, produce a budget with clear financial goals and always work towards them. Some would be short-term, some would be medium-term, and some would be long-term. But maintain a budget with that in mind. That was 32 years ago. And I've used budgets and the process both personally and in my work ever since. Now, I talk about my journey, but as our journey makes us who we are, we're defined by not what we say, but by what we do. And as life is a journey, it's not a destination. So on that note, I will start the slideshow to discuss the essential components for effective budgeting. The first one I'll talk about is clear financial goals. Now, this is a system which many people will know about. It's called SMART goals, and SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Now, by using SMART goals, will give you the best chance of putting together goals that you can actually achieve. And the feeling of achieving your financial goals boosts confidence. Now, I know Raz will probably tackle some of this later on in some of the stuff that she'll cover. Let me go on to the next component. It's comprehensive planning. Now, consider all your income and expenses, regardless of how small. Also include income or costs that are irregular. And it doesn't matter that it's once every 6 months or even once a year. You need to include it. Also, to help you in that planning, use historical financial data that will help capture all those transactions so you better understand and can put together a comprehensive plan. Prioritization. Now, when you're putting together a budget, you should really focus on the essential expenses and financial goals first, debts and savings, before discretionary spending. You can define expenses and financial goals by assessing whether it's something that is needed compared to something that you would like. But it's essential that you prioritize those things first. Flexibility. Now, it's in order to put together a budget, you need to also consider building in contingencies. Now, that will help to budget for unexpected expenses or changes in income. Now, we all know in life, and the previous speaker was absolutely right, that we're in turmoil at the moment and things truly do not run smoothly, and there will be hiccups along the way. So being able to plan and build in contingencies into a budget will help smooth out some of those issues. Regular review. Now, build a habit of regular reviewing. It's so important. Make it become a habit. This will allow you to adjust to reflect changes in your financial circumstances, your goals, and the market conditions. And that will keep your budget relevant and effective. So I've come to the end of my first slide, and I'll just go to Raz to ask her if there's anything more you wish to add to that section, Raz. Just to let you know, Raz, you're on mute.
Right, can you hear me now?
Yeah, beautiful, lovely.
Perfect. Okay, right. So, yes, thank you for that, Wayne. I think I will go into a bit more detail on the practical applications afterwards. But the key thing here I want to kind of impress upon that Wayne has said, we talk about budgeting. We will budget throughout our lives. As Wayne has already said, it's not a destination, it's a journey. But all I'm going to leave the thought with you, because I know we're conscious of time, the thought I'm going to leave with you is budgeting and COVID. We can budget as much as we want, but what we have to understand is the things that could happen that we are not aware of. Nobody knew that this pandemic was going to happen, and no amount of budgeting would have allowed us to overcome COVID. So the point I'm trying to make here is think of just all the emergencies that could potentially happen. So I will cover this in a bit more detail in terms of what you need to be doing. Budgeting isn't just the day-to-day. It's not just the future. It's also where do you want to end up and how you're going to get there. So that's all I'm going to say before and I'll cover some of it in mind. Thank you. Back to you, Wayne.
Thank you, Raz, for that. So let me go to my next slide. I'll start with the first components of tracking. So budgeting is one element, but equally important is the tracking process. So the first component we'll look at is consistency. So make sure you track income and expenses consistently, whether it be daily, weekly, or monthly. That's important because this maintains an accurate picture of your financial position. And to understand that at any given time is important for when making financial decisions. Detail, orientation. Now, when we look at transactions, it's important that we include the date, the amount, and more importantly, characterization. We should characterize the different elements of income sources that we have, and also all the different areas of expense that we have as well. Now, by doing this, build spending and income patterns, which will help us when we dive deeper into understanding what we're doing and how we're doing it. The use of technology. Wow. Now, we've probably all seen the transition from 20, 30 years ago to what it is now. Technology has become everything, but we need to master it. We need to make it work for us because now you've got computers, smart devices, phones. Now, for many of us, and one of the things that I've done is try to look at a system that will work across different platforms. So I can physically carry my data with me wherever I go, whether it's in a meeting, whether it's at my desk, wherever, or even at home. If you can find a bit of software that will help you cross all the multi-platforms, that will save you a great deal. And more important, what it will also do, some of this software actually does automation. So it starts doing some of the work for us. So then all we need to do is interpret what it's presented. But one thing is quite key, don't get lost in technology, because sometimes technology can fool you, lead you down a road and not truly understanding what you've done. You do need to understand the technology. Analysis, accountability. Now, you should regularly analyze to identify trends for overspending and opportunities for savings. Now, in the process, I've done this personally and in my work environment, that you should always document your analysis. So whether it's from month to month, quarter to quarter, year to year, by building that comparison helps you understand your financial position over a longer period of time. say 5 years, 10 years. And therefore, understanding that helps you put together better budgets for the future, which are more accurate and are more meaningful. The last one is regular review all those steps on a regular basis. Sometimes we get into the mode of, we put a process together, it works for now, but things change. It may not work in 6 months' time or a year down the line. So it's important to review those processes on a regular basis to make sure your budget and in terms of tracking stays relevant. Now I've come to the end of that slide, and I hand to Raz whether you wanted to add anything to that, Raz.
Thank you, Wayne. And again, I think just to talk about very briefly about tracking, we talk about tracking and we tend to think, right, what have I spent yesterday? What have I spent today? Where is, what is that I have on a monthly basis? The key thing here is, I'm not talking that you have to do spreadsheets and what have you, although, it's a good idea, but I'm not saying that you have to. This is the technology taking over. It was all pen and paper in my day. But the key thing here is, think of on a week by week, month by month, year on year, where were you previous year, previous month, previous week, and where are you going? This tracking can actually help you understand where your journey is going to be, where it's going to end up. And that's the important thing. Where do you want to end up? Where will you end up? Two different things, but they can end up at the same place. The destination that you're going to eventually can be the same one. It's how you budget, how you track is the only way that's going to get you there. By saying and kind of putting your head in the sand and saying, oh yeah, it's fine, it'll happen. It won't happen. It's up to you to track it. Nobody else will track it for you. So it's up to you to track it. Having said that, my husband tracks me all the time. It's like, what have you spent? Da, 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 da. And I'm the finance person. But hey, what are husbands for, right? Anyway, I'm going to hand it back to Wayne.
Thank you, Raz. Now, my last slide talks about the benefits of effective budgeting and tracking. The first element is financial control. Let's be honest, we all want financial control, and we need to find a way of creating that environment, putting all those things that we've learned, we've watched, we've listened to, systems, processes, into the entire thing, bringing it together, and then implementing it in a way to get real results, which gives you financial control. But also it enables us to make better financial decisions. Once we understand where we are, and as Rad said, where we want to go, where we've been and where we want to go, it allows us to make better financial decisions. Goal achievement. For me, this is very important. It's a kind of personal thing, because sometimes we can get drawn into setting these long plans, 5-year plans, 10-year plans. And I think sometimes we need to break them down and put in milestones. So you can get to a milestone, achieve it, and to a certain degree, pat yourself on the back. Because let's be honest, we need encouragement, we need focus, and the feeling of accomplishing something at a milestone will only drive you to go to the next milestone. So it's so important that we do that, because some things can be seen such a long way off. If you've got a saving goal, which is going to be over 5 or 10 years time, that is a long time. And we as individuals, we want to stay focused and true to that goal. Debt management. Now, this is probably, in the current climate, it's a big thing for all of us. Debt. It's major. So when we're building budgets and we're doing the tracking, prioritizing debt payments must come first. And when you do that, you clear your debts quicker. And the feeling we get when we do that, you can't beat it. And then it leaves us with additional sources of income that we can look at possibly saving goals or the next development, which takes us next to the following one, which is savings growth. At the end of the day, I think there are a lot of businesses out there, as Raz pointed out, came out of COVID and had to rebuild probably from scratch. And the ones that survived have so far done the right things to keep going. But we want to get to a point where we're not in this position of just trying to recover. We want to stay ahead of the game. We want to be in a position where we can start planning for the future. And this is where savings growth comes in. We can look at what we want to do in the future, develop, expand, and grow. But we need to first deal with the debt. Stress reduction. Wow. Well, we probably all go through this multiple times a day for various different reasons. Now, for me, I think when you are in control of your finances and you've got financial control, it does truly reduce anxiety and stress, because there are so many other things that are going on in our life that this is one you don't really want to add to. And it's a burden that affects us all. So if we get it right, financial control, we can become happier people. Preparedness. Budgeting for emergencies ensures that we are better prepared for unexpected expenses. And as I said, we've just come out of COVID. No one could have predicted that. We've got to learn our lessons. We've got to become more lean in our operation, because there will be another COVID at some stage. So we need to build businesses that have stability, that have contingency in place, that should it happen again, we are lean enough as a business to get through those difficult times. So to conclude, effective budgeting and tracking will allow you to maintain good financial health, achieve financial goals, and respond to financial challenges. These components in budgeting and tracking are designed to build your knowledge and understanding for financial goal setting. So I hope you can take away a snippet from my talk today and implement it. So before I finish, I'll hand over to Raz. Raz, would you like to add anything to that section?
Just, I mean, on that, because whilst we will be talking about the practical solutions, I probably won't, well, I will cover budgeting. Actually, no, you know what? I'll do it in my section. It doesn't matter. I'll hand it back to you, Wayne, for Q&A, because I'm also conscious of time. So I'll hand it back to you.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you both. Thank you, Wayne. And it is just a key skill, isn't it? Just being able to budget. But I think what it has certainly resonated with our listeners. So I've been following the comments, and the budgeting for emergencies, the regular review, the flexibility. It's all sort of things we should be thinking about, and it also is all familiar terminology with what we've used with what we've heard from previous presentations today and yesterday. So thank you very much for that. I think we have time for a couple of questions, Wayne, if you're happy to take a couple of questions, please.
Yes, yeah.
Right, so the first question I've got, we talked a lot about technology and using technology. What type of software do you use to create your budgets, just to give us an idea?
Well, do you know what? I'm one of these people that I try and I test stuff and then I move until I find something that I'm happy with. Now, for many of you, you probably all know Excel. Now, if you are one of these individuals where you know how to do formulas in Excel, it is the perfect tool. So there's all these other softwares out there that are great. You've got Sage and all the different accounting softwares, and we do use Sage, but what we start off with for our budget is Excel. So I use Excel in a huge way, and I'm able to, the functionality Excel has, it can link to other files. So, you know, the one I'm working at the moment links to over 20 different financial files, which imports data into my budget. So I'm not having to literally manually do the process myself. And that's how I go about creating and building a budget. But admittedly, if you know all the other bits of software, you can then import a budget into software like Sage 50, for example. So it's not something that just sits on its own. Excel can be imported into most accounting software packages.
Thank you, Wayne. I second you. I think Excel is best thing since sliced white bread, really. And I think I've got Vida on the chat actually saying Excel saving lives since the 1100s. Thank you, Vida. Thank you, Wayne. And similarly, Wayne, if you're happy to answer questions alongside the chat, just so that we do keep to time, I'd be really grateful if that's okay.
Not a problem at all.
Big round of applause for Wayne, everybody. Can I please have some emojis coming up? Can I please have
And thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Right. And we can then move swiftly on to Raz so that we keep the momentum going on budgeting and tracking. Raz, if I can just briefly read your profile, please, before I hand over the floor to you. Thank you. Raz is a apologies. I'm going to restart that. Raz Gohil is a global financial expert. She's a highly accomplished veteran in the banking industry, boasting an impressive 36-year career marked by diverse leadership roles spanning commercial banking, strategy, credit and risk management, and financial crime and compliance. Her many qualifications include certifications from the Lumina training programs, emphasizing behavioral interaction and leadership skills. During her 4-year tenure at Moody's Analytics, Raz excelled in overseeing tailored training programs that addressed critical areas such as credit and risk, financial crime and compliance, regulatory adherence, and commercial due diligence, as well as sales and service for numerous Tier 1 banks and financial institutions. These programs not only honed technical expertise, but also prioritized essential soft skills, a crucial asset in today's customer-centric and intricate financial landscape. Raz's global experience extends across regions including the UK, Europe, Middle East, Africa, Asia Pacific, and the Americas. So truly global, Raz. She enjoyed a fruitful career at HSBC, where she held various management and leadership positions within its retail, commercial, and corporate banking divisions, with her primary base remaining in London. So Raz, very warm welcome to you, and I'll hand over to you now, please.
Right, and now I'm already going to have a issue with the, okay, I'm trying to do a share. I'm supposed to be technical, but here we go. Right, where are we? Can you tell me if you can see my slides?
We certainly can. Thank you, Raz.
Okay, right. So again, I think thank you for that wonderful intro, Hina, and also Wayne. Thank you for allowing me to be part of your presentation as well. I'm going to just talk about the summary and the practical applications. And so, Vida, Wayne, they've all kind of talked to you at a high level. I'm going to bring it down to basics, okay? Because we all forget when we move up that ladder, we forget what's on the ground. We forget that's where we started. So what I'm going to do is kind of bring it back to basics and say, right, budgeting, tracking, financial empowerment, whatever you want to call it, it needs to be where we started. And so just to bring it back to basics, I want to kind of talk about that, we're talking about budgeting and this is what I was going to say in Wayne's bit. And I thought, well, no, I'll introduce it here. When Wayne had told the story that at 19, he had his mum had kind of told him he needed to start budgeting. Mine started a little bit earlier, much, much earlier. And my father was quite strict, and his background was very much in the customs excise business. But and I'm going to show my you may be able to calculate my age, you may not. I am a bit of a dinosaur. So I used to get pocket money. Are you ready for all of these that are in the UK? 3 pence a day. 3 pence. That used to allow me a packet of crisps, bar of chocolate. I know, I was only 5. That's what you want to eat. And a kind of a drink or whatever it was. 3 pence. And when I wanted something else, my father would say, "You've had your 3 pence for the day. You need to cut out something if you want something more." Now, I didn't know it was budgeting at the time. It was, I want more money and I can't have it. So I've got to try and budget to make sure that I can have what I want the next day. And 3 pence was a lot of money in those days. So I'm going back way, way back. Right? I'm not quite a dinosaur, but yeah. Anyway, so this is when we talk about budgeting, going back to basics is what we need to know. So just looking at this is Wayne had touched upon this, and I'm sure all of you have come across the SMART objectives that happens in all organizations we talk about. It's in our objectives in terms of what we need to achieve. And it's this one word, SMART. What we need to achieve is actually take this seriously, specific and measurable. So when we talk about specific, measurable financial goals, think about clearly decide what is it, define what you understand by specific and what can it be measured against. And this is the bit I was talking about when I said go back to basics. What is it that you exactly want to achieve? Is it saving money or is it saving a set amount of money? The difference, there's a big difference. I'm going to save some money, classic line, or I'm going to save £10,000. So the difference is be specific. What is it that you want to achieve? Because if you say I'm going to save money, saving 2 pence a day is not going to get you anywhere, right? I know people haven't even heard of 2 pence these days, but in my day we did. And it's kind of thinking about, well, if I have a specific target, I know what I need to budget and save on now to achieve that £10,000 at the end of the day, whatever your target is. Now, we talk about that, but my next point is achievable. Is it realistically achievable? People might be in that situation where they can't even save, and we know where the economy is at the moment. There's a lot around the world below the poverty line. And saving is not, it's not one that's in their agenda. For them, it's survival. So what we need to understand when you're looking at, you want financial empowerment, what is achievable to you? It doesn't have to be £10,000. It can be £500. But all I'm saying is make sure that whatever you set yourself, because I can guarantee you, if you set yourself so high, you will fall at the first hurdle. So make sure that you know you can get there. And the only way you can do that is the things that Wayne had talked about, is if you budget carefully, you know exactly how much income is coming into the house and what your costs are. Okay. The other thing is, make it relevant or realistic. So here, when, you might have, say, saving to buy a car, saving for retirement, saving. So whatever the case may be, it might be to buy a house. It might be that you've got children and you want to educate them. The key thing is don't save and don't budget for the sake of it. Have a purpose. Make it that it's known, thinking, I want to achieve this, and the only way I can achieve it is this. So make it relevant to you, because I can guarantee you that when you do something for a purpose, you will actually do it. When you think it's just generic, I'll leave it today. I won't put that money away today. I'm just going to have a bit of a drink. I'm going to go and have I'm going to go out for dinner. Make it relevant so that you know. And the other thing I'm going to talk about is time bound. We talk about time bound. Set a time. Don't extend that time. So if you've said I'm going to save this, or I'm going to achieve this in 6 months. It's got to be 6 months to the day. Don't say, oh, I'll just do an extra day because I haven't met my target. I'll just do an extra day. Well, if you haven't met your target, you've gone wrong somewhere along the way. Your budgeting and your tracking hasn't worked. And you need to go back and say, where did I go wrong? Whilst I'm bringing it to basic level, this is life. This is what you need to do, whether you're in a business, whether you're doing it personally, whatever the reason, whether you are doing it for family. If you have not achieved your target in the time that you have put, you've gone wrong somewhere earlier on. And that's why the tracking is important. Because if you're tracking, you'll know that I have got to achieve this to the day, 6 months, 3 months, a year, whatever the case may be. Because when you've done it, you know. And on that is the kind of the key thing. So when we talk about SMART, it is this airy-fairy word that organizations and corporates use. I know, I've worked for corporates, so it is. But realistically, on a personal level, as well as if you are business owners, or if you're working, think of those SMART objectives and think, how can I realistically achieve all of this? So prioritize your financial goals the way you see fit. Don't do what other people are doing, right? Don't have this, oh, he or she's doing that, I've got to do it. It may not be realistic to you. It may not be relevant for you. Okay, so that's the important thing. I'm going to move on, and I know you'll have the questions at the end. So if there is any questions, please let me know, Hina. So
Absolutely.
moving on to categorizing the goals. And here, you're going to look at me and thinking, planning for retirement, really? And I know Vida mentioned this about planning for retirement. But let me tell you something. You can't plan for retirement early enough. When my daughter left school, well, she went on to university, probably about 17, 18 years old. And the first thing I did, and I was fortunate because I'd gone to university and then started a job. And I was fortunate enough that worked for an organization that already put pension into, money into our pension. And I'd said to my daughter, my husband and I sat down and said, right, you're going to start putting some money into a pension. And she looked at me and said, I'm not old, Mum. And I said, yeah, but you will be one day. And you'll thank us for this. Now, when she told her friends, they kind of laughed at her to say, you're only 18. Why does your mum and dad want you to take out a pension? Why are you paying into a pension? Now, she's somewhere in her 30s. I do know her age, but she'll tell me off if I tell you. So she now probably thanks us because whereas she was paying a nominal amount into her pension, her friends and other colleagues, as the older you get, the more you have to put into your pension to actually get what you want at the end of the time you're retiring. She's still putting a nominal amount in. She may have topped it up and what have you. But we started her early because that money is tax-free. It's going to be yours at the end of the day. The earlier you start, the more you're going to get and the less you're going to have to put to achieve that. Vida talked about wealth management and about planning and investing. This is a kind of an investment. This is money that goes in that you can't take out. So when you talk about budgeting and tracking, you can't, oh, I'll just borrow a bit. You can't borrow a bit. It's not like your savings. It's not like money under your bed. You can't take it out. So that money's gone and it's waiting for you when you do get old, when you retire, when you've got your grandchildren. Okay. So think about planning. Don't, and I'm not going to go into the detail of the investments because that's not what I want to talk about. I want to bring it down to basics. So when I say planning for retirement, please do start thinking. A lot of people don't put money in. Don't get me wrong. Their attitude and their behavior. I come from I've been in the bank as my bio had said, and I've worked for corporates all around globally. But people then think, oh, I've got loads of houses. That's my retirement. Great. I've got lots of, I've got a business and I've got loads of income. Great. What if you have a major market crash? That investment's gone down the pan. That's going to have an impact on the value of the property. How much is that going to last you? Pensions, to a degree, depending on what you invest in, are to a degree untouchable. to a degree. Okay, I'm not an IFA, but I've worked with them for a long time. So think about when you are planning, budgeting, where can you put the money away that you've forgotten about, but is a nice gift when you decide to retire. Okay, paying down debt. Now, there is this thing that you want to pay down debt because you don't want to have that debt. Yes, but manage that. So when the interest rates are low, leave it as it is and make sure that you can pay it as you can. Because when interest rates rise, that's when you start struggling. So the thing is, pay down if you need to pay down. And if that's the savings you're going to do, then have those savings for that. And when we say pay down debt, majority of organizations, banks, building society, institutions, you can pay monthly or you can pay it off. So when you have the ability to pay it off, pay down the debt. Okay, completely, just get rid of that. It's off your head. It's stress-free. You've got rid of it, and pay it down while you can. Interest rates are not great at the moment, especially in the UK, and I would imagine Europe as well. But globally, in different, I think, not Vida. I don't know if it was Noella or if it was someone that mentioned about the economy in Nigeria at the moment. So think about that. Can you pay things off? All right. So this is the order. If you remember, I talked about planning for emergencies. So preparing for the unexpected. Who knew COVID was going to have the damage and do the damage it did? There are businesses, big businesses that went under. There were businesses that were, 100 years old that went under because of the pandemic. Can you prepare for that? Probably not. But the key thing here is think of the potential emergencies. Think of where you are. Think of where you are in the world. Think of where you are as an individual. Think of where your business is. How can you prepare for emergencies in terms of, right, I've got an emergency fund. Great. Can you touch that emergency fund? If you can, it's not an emergency fund. Don't touch that emergency fund, right? And it's I joke about it, but I used to say, you get these barbed wire, electrocuted barbed wire. Put that around your emergency fund because you're never going to touch it. You only take the barbed wire out when you know you're going to need it, when you need it. But the key thing is don't touch it, seriously. And your personal goals. This is saving for whatever you want personally. That's got to be your last thing when you categorize in the order that you're doing it in. So, you might want to go on holiday. Some people said they've not been on holiday for a long time. You might be budgeting for your personal stuff in terms of courses and career development. All of that is a way of budgeting. And if you want that course because you want to go up that ladder of success in your career, then you've got to start saving in terms of what do I need to achieve? Going back to the SMART goals is what do I need to achieve? If I want to do this course because I want the next step, next rung of the ladder, I need to start knowing what I need to achieve there, what I need to save to be able to do that. Does that make sense to everybody? I know we're going to ask the questions later on, but I hope I'm making sense. And, a lot of you might say, well, this is really basic stuff. Yes, it is. And I don't apologize for that because, as I've said, you need to look at the basics. Now, the short-term and long-term objectives, I'm going to kind of combine, but I just want to talk about in terms of the short-term. This is kind of related to savings. This is where I said, have your 6-month or 3-month, 6-month, whatever. Think about what you want to save, how you want to save. And I'm going to talk about later on in terms of the kind of practical solutions that you can use. Bit of a fun thing, but actually it's something that has it actually has meaning. When I talk about the investments and the debt reduction, I'm going to put them together. What I'm trying to do here is develop a budget that you can allocate the funds sufficiently. So allocate the funds for your investments and for your debt reduction. So from whatever income you're getting, think I'm going to put this much into my investments. I'm going to put this much in my debt, to reduce my debt. Don't change that. If you've made that decision, don't say, oh, I'm not going to, I need some money today, this month. Therefore, I'm not going to put anything into my investment, or I can't reduce my debt. If you've planned on doing something, follow it through. This is the bit where we get waylaid and we get distracted. So understand thinking, this is what I'm going to do, carry on and do it. Make sure that you invest that fund. And, Vida said it, Wayne said it, track your investments. Nobody else is going to track it for you, unless you have a financial advisor who's going to charge you an amount of money to do that. But if you've got someone that can help you track it, then fine, use that person to track it. Your debt reduction, I used to, when I was younger and at university, many years ago, I used to have this little sheet. It wasn't an Excel. I didn't know what Excel was in those days. I wasn't that techie. But I used to have just a sheet, and it used to be in terms of if I had a credit card. When you're young, you just put everything on a blooming card, don't you? And it was like, how much do I need to pay off this credit card? And I used to have this thing saying, right, I've got to have £50 or whatever the case may be, £10, whatever the case may be, to make sure that my debt is reduced. And when you're visually looking at something and you think, oh, I've only got 200 left. Oh, I've only got to pay 190. I've only got to pay. That psyche, in terms of that psychological impact that it has on you when you visually see your debt going down, not just in a bank account, not just the debt, but visually seen on paper. And then you can track them thinking, oh, I've only got a couple of months before I can pay off my debt. So think of things like that. Think of these, and I'm going to give you some practical exercises anyway. The other thing I would say, and this is kind of related to savings, but also your retirement planning. Have an automatic, with your bank accounts, with any accounts that you have an automatic saving facility where an amount automatically goes from your account into the savings account. I'm sure you all do it, and forgive me if you think I'm going to real basics, but you'd be surprised how many people cancel that because, oh, I can't afford this moment. With the economy the way it is, I can't afford to put that much into the savings anymore, and you cancel it. All I would say is try not to do that, okay? Try not to cancel that savings. Carry on if you can, even if it's for your retirement. Now, this bit, long-term objectives, is very similar in terms of what's your savings, where's your investments. I've got a timer come on me now, so I'm going to just very quickly run through this. Where are your investments and what type are they? Keep reviewing. Don't say, oh, it's fine, it's earning money. Look at what you and speak to your wealth manager, your IFA. How much debt will you have and why? Right? Everybody's in debt at the moment. You need to understand the timescale of what your debt is. Where is it? How much is it? When can I pay it back? And retirement. What does retirement really mean to you? I've been told I should be retiring. I thrive on working. It keeps me sane. It keeps my brain intact. But just to, it's understand, what does retirement mean for you? Does it mean just living in a nice place, traveling, putting money aside for your grandchildren, or whatever the case may be? Think about it. What does it mean? So just a few examples that I think you should look at. Think about yourself in terms of the savings challenges that I was going to say. I don't know if you've heard about the 100 envelope challenge. You may or may not have heard of it. What that basically means is over a period of time, you put money into an envelope, right? You can have individual envelopes, or you can have one envelope where you're putting money in all the time. That money over time, and that is something where you put away and you only put the money into that envelope. This is kind of simple things, but you mustn't touch that. You've got to, what I tend to say is have an envelope either on a monthly basis or however you want to save, and sellotape it. And don't open that envelope until your objective has come. So you've set your time. The other thing is a 30-day rule. So this is what we're talking about when you're spending money. Think about if you're wanting to buy something, you think, yeah, I really want that. It may be business related, it may be personal. 30-day rule is go back, think about it. If in those 30 days you have not thought about it, that means you didn't need it and you don't want it. Simple. Look, we're women. We like our shoes. We like our handbags. We like our clothes. We like all of that. Think about it. Do we really need it? And if we want, these are the kind of simple savings that you need to do. The one thing I'm going to end on, how often do we use a card for everything, right? We don't see the physical money leaving our bank account. We see it from a card. It's a card. And what the other thing you can do if you really are budgeting is use cash. I know we say, and Vida mentioned it, cash flow is king, but use the cash, because when you take out cash on a daily or a weekly basis, that's all you've got. Don't have the card. Put your card away. Try it out for a week. Just take cash out that you think you're going to need on a daily basis and only use that cash. If your cash has run out on that Monday, your cash has run out on that Monday. Don't use Tuesday's cash, because you've budgeted that you can use. That's what you'll need on the Monday. What's happened that you now need the cash? Your tracking has gone wrong, right? So understand all of that. So all I'm saying is think about the basics. Think about what you can effectively do. And this is for budgeting. This is for businesses. This is for personal. This is for whatever you want to do. But I think my time is up before I get told off. I just want to say thank you for listening, and any questions?
Thank you, Raz. Thank you. And, it's evidence from the chat. Those are some great practical tips that people are absolutely taking on board. I love the fact, take the cash out. When the cash is done, that is it. Don't use the following day's cash. That's your 3 pence experience coming through there. Retirement planning, a subject close to my heart, given that's what I work in. So absolutely, the earlier start, the better. We luckily, I believe, Raz, if that's okay, we have time for one question, if I may put that forward to you, please.
Absolutely. Yep.
Could you please share some common pitfalls in financial goal setting and how best we can avoid them?
Financial pitfalls in goal setting. Right. Okay. I think the key thing here is realistically. So all I would say here is, if you are look at a month worth of income, costs, savings, whatever you do, and put it, I say Excel. I use Excel now, by the way. I'm no longer the dinosaur. The dinosaur's grown into something else. So think of that. Look, just thinking, right, this is what I earn. This is what my expenses are. Out of these expenses, this is what I'm using for the luxurious things. This is my absolute must. The thing is, what happens is you end up looking at that and thinking, right, I can afford to do this and move money around. Oh, I'll go out today. I know I've got extra money. I'll go out. Don't do that. If you know that this is money that you've got and you think, do I really need to go out? I would say that your financial pitfall is that you get distracted in terms of, oh, I've got that little bit extra. Don't use that little bit extra to spend. Use that little bit extra to save, whether it's your retirement, whatever the case may be. Maybe for your kids' university. It might be that you want to save because you want to pay off a debt, or you want to save because you want to buy a car or a house. Don't get distracted from spending that money because you've got that little bit extra. See that as the plus thing. See that as, I've got extra money, not, oh, I've got extra money, I'm going to go and spend it. I've got extra money, let me put it away. Okay. My husband's probably laughing. If he heard me, he'd be probably laughing, because he's like, yeah, right. I wish you'd practice what you preach, because I tend to get carried away with and think, oh, I've just got a bit more, I'm going to do that. But honestly, the biggest pitfall is that you get distracted because you've got that little bit extra, and instead of trying to save it, you spend it.
So it's that thing about taking the step back and just being sensible about what you do. And we promise we won't tell your husband anything. There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you, Raz. I'm sure we can all agree in saying that was extremely useful tips that we've just learned there in the past 20 minutes. So appreciation for Raz, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, Raz. And if you're happy to answer questions on the chat, Raz, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
I will do.
Thank you all. So that brings us now, ladies and gentlemen, to our final session of the night. And I think here is where we're going to take a step back. We've spent yesterday and today concentrating on financial wealth in terms of money. I think our next session is going to take that a step further. We are going to go beyond dollars and cents, and we're going to understand the true meaning of wealth. Wealth is not only money. Other things can be considered as wealth. And we're going to have the lovely Catherine talk us through that. So Catherine, if you're okay, I would like to introduce you first before handing the floor over to you. Thank you. So Catherine Marks is a consultant. She's a freelance consultant and an ex-finance director with a master's degree in philanthropic studies. After a 20-year career in finance and M&A, Catherine is embracing a shift in her values and is currently studying for a master's degree in philanthropic studies, undertaking a number of voluntary consulting roles in the nonprofit sector and working in finance learning and development with a focus on helping financial professionals connect with purpose. She's also a trained personal financial coach. During her finance and M&A career, she has worked across the financial services, media, telecoms, and tech industries in the UK, US, and Switzerland. She qualified as a CA at Deloitte and led financial planning and analysis at O2 and was the Vice President of Finance at Depop. Her current voluntary roles include working as a consultant for the Cranfield Trust, the For and Impetus to support non-profit organizations. So Catherine, welcome, and I'll hand over to you. I think you might be on mute though. Still on mute? You able to unmute? Ah, you seem to be stuck on mute. I don't know, Emmanuel, would you be able to assist us with this, please?
Success,
There
I
you
think.
go.
Can you hear me?
Perfect. Thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you so much. Over
Thank
to you,
you.
Catherine.
Thanks. Thanks to you, Hina, and thanks to everyone for sticking right through till the end on a Friday night. Let me just fire up my slides. One moment. There we go. I think everyone's seeing that okay?
We are. Thank you, Catherine.
Fantastic. So I hope that I can use this last session of the evening to get you thinking about wealth much more holistically. So as the title suggests, beyond dollars and cents or pounds and pence or any other currency for that matter. Now I've only got 20 minutes, but what I'm aiming to leave you with really is 3 key ideas. So firstly, that true wealth is not just about financial success. Secondly, that 9 till 5 till you're 65 isn't the only option. And yes, I know in many cases, including my own, it definitely hasn't been 9 till 5 either. For me, that was part of the problem, but we'll get to that. And thirdly, having a mindset of enough rather than accumulation. So, what is wealth? You're here today at a conference about financial empowerment, about strategies for building wealth. But I find that a too narrow lens to think about wealth. You know, despite the fact that we might be in a cost of living crisis, the temptation to spend and consume is all around us. It infiltrates every physical, digital space around us, and it's pushing us and our planet to its limits. We're still operating financially by rules established during the Industrial Revolution. You know, at that time, the huge success of the introduction of machinery to do work previously done by humans meant that economic activity was slowing down. People asked for shorter work weeks and more leisure time, but we didn't accept that. Instead, we introduced the concept of standard of living, and we educated people to want not only what they needed, but also new things that they didn't need. And we've come to believe that it's our right to consume, and we can be unconscious about our financial belief systems. There's many types of wealth, at least 5 that are listed here, which I've adapted from an article by James Clear, who wrote Atomic Habits. And you may think of more than the 5 that are on the screen. James Clear considers wealth the power to choose. I think that I'd agree with that at the individual level, but there's also the abundance of our societies and our planet to think about, which we'll come to. Financial is one type of wealth. It's the power to choose how to spend money. Social's a second type of wealth. That's often about status, though it can also be about community. Then time, the freedom to choose how we spend it, doing work that we want to do, our leisure time, our traditional retirement time. And then our physical and mental wealth or health. We need to be really wary about dedicating so much of our energy to financial wealth and social status at the cost of these others, because in the end, these are our most finite resources. Does anyone recognize that feeling of being stuck on a treadmill? I have certainly felt like this many times. We can live for having it all, but then often what we have is never enough. What is success for you? Consuming, accumulating, money as security, as power, as social acceptance? Economics worships growth, but nature is not infinitely abundant. We're living in a polycrisis, and still we push for a higher standard of living regardless of moral, ethical, and environmental consequences. Our planet's nearing its capacity, and we can't support an ever-expanding economy. We're borrowing from future generations. So what is your enough? Even just at the financial level, are you clear how much you need? I've spent too much time lacking clarity about that. And in a moment, I'll show you a couple of slides that I wish I'd been aware of much sooner than I was. But first, I wanted to introduce you to a great Spanish word. I'm going to apologize in advance for my pronunciation. Aprovechar. It means to use something wisely. And I really like this word because I don't think we have such a neat English equivalent. So instead of the more is better mentality, it's about the wise stewarding of money, time, energy, space, possessions. It's not necessarily about penny pinching, but it's about honoring our most precious and finite resources, our time, our health, and our planet. It's not necessarily about cheap versus expensive, but recognizing that anything we buy and we don't use, things that we throw away, things that we consume but don't enjoy, is money down the drain. It's wasting our life energy and wasting the finite resources of our planet. So let's look at a couple of practical things. How big does your retirement pot need to be? Do you know? I'm going to touch on the rule of 25 and the 4% rule. I'll note that this is not financial advice. You should take this and, of course, everything that's been shared at this conference and consider it in the context of your own situation. What I'm sharing is simply some maths, which has been helpful for me. I've borrowed this table on the slide because I liked the visual. It doesn't matter that it's in dollars. The same maths applies in any other currency. Though, as well as considering your own situation, there will, of course, be tax to consider, which, of course, works differently in different countries. So when we're talking about your retirement pot, that means your full portfolio. So pensions, perhaps ISAs in the UK, other investments. And the amount that you'll need depends, of course, on how much you're going to be spending. And this isn't a perfect science, but as a rule of thumb, to at least get some context around it, you'll need 25 times your annual spend in your retirement pot. So if you want to be able to spend £30,000 a year, you'll need £750,000 at the point that you would like to reach financial independence. That sounds like a big number, at least it does to me. But in a moment, we'll have a look at the power of compound interest, which helps us to accumulate. Not accumulate more and more possessions, but accumulate towards our financial independence. But first, let me introduce the 4% rule, or what is known as the safe withdrawal rate. This is set out in a research paper by a financial advisor who was looking for a rule of thumb to give his clients on how much they could safely withdraw from their assets. He modeled historical data from people who retired every year since 1926, asking the question, how much could they have withdrawn, adjusting for inflation without running out of money? And he concluded 4% of the initial portfolio amount. It's worth noting that there are other schools of thought with different views that 4% may be more like 3.4%. So again, there's not a perfect science. Do please hold this lightly, but I think it's a really good starting point for the big picture. How on earth do we get there? Given I haven't got a long time and we've had a lot of other great speakers over the course of this conference that have been focused on financial strategies, I won't spend too long on this, but I did want to make sure that everyone's aware of the power of compound returns, or this snowball effect. This graph shows you what a £100 investment per month will look like over a period of 40 years. For this example, I've assumed a 7% return. The blue colour that you can see there at the bottom is the value deposited, and the orange is the interest building up. So in the earlier years, you can see it's quite small, but the further out you go is where the magic happens, or not really the magic, just the maths. After 10 years, your £100 per month means you will have deposited £12,000, and your overall investment will have grown to just over 17,000. After 20 years, that will be £24,000 deposited and just over £57,000 total investment value. And all the way over to the right, over 40 years, you will have deposited £48,000. And look at the value of the investment, £262,000. So you can see this is about being in it for the long term, and the earlier that you can invest, the better. This second example is based on depositing £10,000 today, but with no ongoing deposits, again with a 7% return. After 10 years, that £10,000 will have doubled, and after 20 years, doubled again. After 40 years, that would have grown to a total value of £163,000. So that's the power of compound interest. I'm going to come on to talk about financial empowerment journeys. And then on the next slide, I'll talk about financial independence. In my view, these are two different journeys. At the start of our journeys, we may be lacking in knowledge or simply complacent. We may be trapping ourselves within limiting beliefs, habitual thinking, repeating financial behaviors that don't serve us because of the stories we often tell ourselves about money and wealth. We may be living our parents' agendas, or doing a job that our 17-year-old self thought was a good idea, but now we're not quite so sure. Our systems don't always make it easy to change. That's another thing I feel strongly about, but it's a topic for another day. If I think about myself, I trained as an accountant. I went and got a job. I worked really hard. I chased promotions on a CFO career path, and I got pay rises. By some measures, I was successful. But what else happened? Lifestyle inflation. I moved to a better place. I ate at more expensive restaurants. I bought a car. I acquired lots of clothes. I traveled to new places. Now, some of that was good, but some of it wasn't. And I was working such a lot, often 70, 80-hour weeks, that I came to a point and I thought, does all of this really serve me? Am I really living my values? I had this deep underlying sense of lacking purpose. That was something that had come up for me periodically across a number of years, not just once. But the difference this time was that I took actions, including confronting my complacency around financial behaviors. I was a person working within corporate finance, And I'd never really taken the time to think about some of the things that I've talked through today in terms of how the numbers work. I was very good at taking care of my clients and companies' financials, but not necessarily my own. Yeah, things like, how much do I actually need to retire? How should I think about the compounding effect of investments over time, as well as understanding the other types of wealth, which I'd compromised for too long. So I built my knowledge. Instead of just continuing on the treadmill, I invested the time in developing my awareness and challenging how aligned my life was with my values. And beyond that, recognizing the part that I was playing in the system and my own impact on the planet and future generations. I think this is what real financial empowerment is, or financial integrity. Recognizing money for what it is and integrating our values with our relationship with money and our purpose, not wasting our life energy nor the finite resources of the planet. Lastly, let's have a look at the financial independence journey, which is different from financial empowerment. That's because we can have all the awareness, integrity, but not yet be in a position where we're financially independent. And we're all going to be at different stages. At that first level, we're in survival mode. Here it's about self-preservation, and we're not in a position to start saving or investing for the future. We may be dependent on other people for financial assistance. Stability. Our financial position becomes stable. That doesn't mean optimal, but we're less dependent on others for our financial needs. If anyone is at these stages, then please don't think that getting to the other stages is not for you. It's a journey and it takes time. I think if it's likely that if you're joining this conference, you have the capability to get there at a point in the future. Accumulation. At this stage, we can go beyond supporting ourselves. We can save, invest for our longer term financial future, and think about what wealth means holistically to us. I think this is the stage where many can get trapped in lifestyle inflation, in financial complacency. But if we empower ourselves by increasing our awareness and ultimately our financial integrity, we can move beyond this. Before I talk about strategic, I'll actually come to the last one, financial independence. What does that mean? It can mean different things to different people, but what I'm talking about here is being able to stop working for money, though it doesn't mean you have to. Work has different functions for us. There's the material, financial side, but there's also personal needs, emotional, intellectual, psychological. If we break the link between work and financial reward, we can regain values and self-worth as our bottom line. Of course, some of us are fortunate enough to find a high-paying, high-integrity job that meets all of our needs very well and feels that we're paid to do what we feel called to. But that's not always the case. Financial independence means that we have accumulated sufficient resources in our savings, investments, and passive income streams to cover our living costs. The traditional route to that is when we hit retirement age and we draw a pension, but it's not the only way. You may have heard of the FIRE movement, Financial Independence Retire Early. It's often associated with a quite extreme approach to frugality and saving, with stories of people retiring in their 30s and 40s. That's quite extreme, and it may be out of reach and indeed undesirable for many people. But I think that there are different approaches and different journeys to get there. My goal for today was to share the idea that there are different routes beyond the traditional paths. Do you have to be an extreme saver and pinch every penny? No, absolutely not. But also you don't need to consider that continued accumulation and traditional retirement is the only option. That strategic phase represents everything in between. And that's the phase that I consider myself in, having taken a step back from my full-time finance job and realigned with my values. As Hina mentioned at the start, I'm currently focused on 3 things: freelance work, studying for a degree, and volunteering at a number of non-profit organizations. And this, for me, feels more wealthy than only focusing on the financial type of wealth. My journey will be ongoing, and I don't have a plan to hit financially independent anytime soon. But having moved away from financial complacency and having a better appreciation for what is enough is the financial empowerment that I needed. So just coming back to those many types of wealth, of course, there's usually a balancing act. I feel that I've rebalanced. I certainly haven't got it perfectly right, and I'm sure that I'll need to make more changes along the way, but I continue to learn. So yeah, I ask you all, if you feel like you're compromised in any one or more of these areas, do you feel that you're serving your community and environment in the way that you'd like? Remember that time and health and that of the planet are our most finite resources. So please do take all of the great financial strategies from this conference, but keep this bigger picture in mind. I'll just wrap up by showing some of the sources that I've based today's presentation on, and some further resources here on the slide. In particular, today's material draws heavily on the book Your Money or Your Life, which is one of the most influential personal finance books of all time, and one of the originators of the FIRE movement. I don't agree with everything in the book or find all of the exercises useful, but I do think it's a really useful place to start. The Different Types of Wealth was adapted from an article by James Clear, and his book Atomic Habits is also an excellent resource. Yield and Spread is focused on finance for good and has an excellent training course, though it's targeted mainly at a US audience. There's a lot of generic information, but some is specific to the US, so you might find others more helpful. There's a lot of sources out there, so do have a look around and find what works best for you. What I liked about the Fioneers is that they have a similar focus on what I've called the strategic stage. Also on there, How to Fund the Life You Want, really helpful book. The same author also has a website called The Evidence-Based Investor. And finally, I'll also mention there at the bottom, Meaningful Money, that it's a guy called Pete Matthews. He's got a load of resources on his website, podcasts and YouTube. So yeah, dive in, have a look around. There's a lot of fantastic stuff, in addition to everything that we've learned through the conference. I would love to connect with everyone on LinkedIn, so do track me down there. I'll drop my LinkedIn in the chat in a moment, but I will pass back to Hina for any questions that may have come up.
Thank you, Catherine, for that fantastic holistic view, looking at wealth as more than just money. But I think personally, I think the biggest thing from there is from what you've said is taking on board the enough mindset, not the accumulation. And I love the way you've sort of articulated weaving in your values into your financial journey. I think that's a different way of looking at it. So thank you again. I think we do have time for one question, if that's okay. And it's actually a question from one of our audience asking if you wouldn't mind expanding a bit more on the 25 and 4% plan. So back to your initial slide that you shared with us.
Sure, absolutely. Let me just fire that back up because I think that one's useful. It's good to have that one in front of us. One moment.
Whilst you fire that up, and similar, if you don't mind, Catherine, once you're off this, there are a few more questions popping up that we won't have time to address verbally, but if you're happy to go back to people, that would be great.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Thank you.
So back to this slide here. So back to the maths. And yeah, let me recap. When we're talking about the retirement pot, I'm talking about everything. So, you know, that may be in pensions, it can be investments, it can be, you know, in the UK, we have ISAs, individual savings accounts, you know, it's everything. And at the point that you want to retire, or should I say be financially independent, when we're not relying on work for our income, then the amount that you'll need, of course, depends on how much you're going to be spending. So that's one to think about. And at that point of retirement, I don't like the traditional word retirement, because I think people should really think about what it means for them. And Raz touched on that earlier as well. Anyway, I won't go off on a tangent about that, but yeah, think about what's the amount that you're going to be spending? What do your living costs look like? It might be quite different from right now. You may have paid off a property, for example. That's one of our biggest outgoings. So that might impact it. What you will need is 25 times your annual spend in your retirement pot at the point that you retire or become financially independent. So to recap on the example that I gave, and there's lots of others if you read across in the table there. If you want to be spending £30,000 a year, you'll need £750,000 at the point that you want to retire / reach financial independence. And you'll recall then that I went on and talked about sort of the power of compound interest, and there's been loads of other great insight across the conference in terms of how we get there. Because for those that are earlier on in their careers, perhaps that sounds like a really big number, but step by step, we get there. Do I have a little bit more time just to come back to the 4%, Hina, or should I do it in the chat?
We have half a minute to a minute. What would you like to do?
I'll be very quick.
Go on then. Go for it. Why not? It's always better verbally to hear it.
Yeah, I think so. But if anyone does want to, go away and read more, and I definitely encourage that, it's, you won't learn everything you need to know in one go. Go away and, write down the terms that are not familiar to you and go and learn about them. And this one is the safe withdrawal rate. It's a concept that you'll find if you do some Googling. And the 4% is based on this research from a financial advisor who looked all the way back to 1926 at people who had retired and said, okay, how much could they have withdrawn from their retirement pot until they eventually passed away without ever running out of money? And if they only ever took out 4% of that pot, they would never run out of money. That's what his research showed. And I did add the caveat that there are other schools of thought out there. We shouldn't hold ourselves to this, so tightly that, it's an indestructible rule. I presented it more just to get some context around the maths, which is something that I've found really helpful in my own financial journey.
That's fantastic. Absolutely clear. So thank you again, Catherine. Thank you. Can we have some appreciation for Catherine as well? Thank you so much. Thank you. We're nearly at the end of our session, but please don't leave yet. We've only got 5 more minutes to cover a couple of things. So firstly, I think it would be fair to say that our speakers have outdone themselves. Our listeners have outdone themselves. So I think we all owe all of ourselves a massive round of applause. Thank you so much, Vida. Thank you, Wayne. Thank you, Raz. And thank you, Catherine. You guys were absolutely on fire tonight. Thank you so much. Before we sign off and take our picture on screen with everyone for posterity, I'd like to invite Weluche, our UK host, to say a few final closing remarks. And then please do stay on. We'd love to have a picture of all your beautiful faces for posterity, please. Weluche, over to you, please. You're on mute, I think, Weluche. Still on mute? Emmanuel, perhaps you could assist us. You okay? I'm still on mute there, I think. Emmanuel, I don't know if you can help us from behind, please.
Yes, can you try again?
Thank you.
Okay.
Perfect.
Fine
Thank
now.
you, Eluche.
Okay. Wow. Thank you so much. Vida, you said this was a masterclass? I don't think so. For me, I've just had a refresher course on budgeting and planning and everything, financial empowerment. Thank you so much to all the speakers for the amazing topics, for doing justice to the topics. I really, in particular, like how we gave practical solutions to empowerment. That's the most important thing. For me, it wasn't an academic exercise that we've had in the past 2 days. We've shared practical solutions and on how we can better empower women. And that was my mission in choosing this topic for the UK conference. So my joy is full. I want to thank Wayne, I thank Catherine, Hina, Raz, the UK team. You guys rock. Thank you so much. Vida, thank you very much for coming through. For our amazing audience, thank you. Thank you, and thank you again. Thank you for making our time to sit here with us for the past 2 days. I'm sure we've learned so much. And I can assure you that if we all implement everything that we learned here, we're going to reduce the 169 years that research has said is going to take for the financial gender gap to be, filled. I'm sure that if all of us implement what we've learned in the past 2 days, we're going to reduce that by at least 2 years. So thank you for the impactful sessions that we have had. And I will encourage everyone to please share the videos. Let's impact as many women as we can. For everyone that wasn't able to join us, let's make sure that we reach out to as many women as possible. Let's continue to empower our women. And to the men that joined us, thank you so much. We appreciate your support all the time. Noella, just for want of time, Noella, please, can you just take a moment to
Yes,
appreciate
Weluche, I'm
our
here.
team? Yes.
Okay. Wow. I'll say it's been so hot in here, actually. It's been so hot in here. I've been taking loads and loads of notes. I've been chatting away in the chat comment section. I couldn't stop typing. I couldn't stop writing. Like you mentioned, it was just like a refresher course. Thank you so much, our amazing speakers, for a fantastic job. I truly appreciate all of you. Raz, thank you so much for breaking everything down, for bringing it down to earth. It was so simplified, Anybody could just understand what it means to be financially prudent. Thank you so much, Catherine, because your presentation tied in everything. Your presentation was like pulling strings together and you just nailed everything to the big picture. I loved that. Wayne, where is Wayne? I can't see his face.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Wayne. I think I have to enroll in a class with you. Vida, oh my goodness, talk about VUCA.
The VUCA proof
We've all
Wayne.
been VUCAized, Thank you so much, everybody. It's been such an exciting moment. And to think that you all gave this freely is something really.
We can't thank them enough. We can't.
Something really amazing. If we have to pay for this for these sessions, we'll have to pay through our noses. So thank you so much, everybody. And there was something Emmanuel just shared before he spotlighted me. The Growth Conference is meant to awaken some needs in us that we never knew were there. And we don't want the Growth Conference to just end as a conference. We want the Growth Conference to awaken some need in us. And then when the needs are awakened, what's next? We are not going to leave our audience just confused. We need to also equip them with the tools to deal with the needs they have identified. I could see some people making alliances already in the chat section. I saw somebody telling Vida, you're going to train our women, and somebody, you know, so alliances are being forged already. And this is exactly what we want the Growth Conference to achieve. It's a great place to network. It's also a great place to get your questions answered. So to take this a bit further, we are offering this free session on how to build a business from scratch. You know, you can only manage wealth when you have created wealth, right? I know that some of us are in paid employment, but some of us are in businesses. And even those in paid employment would one day want to be their own CEOs. Okay, now the question is, how do we get these people to not make the mistakes that many people made before they started their own businesses? Statistics have shown that 50% of businesses are going to die within the first 1 year of existence. Only about 35 or thereabouts will make it to their 10th birthday. How do we ensure that we don't become part of this statistic? And that is what this free program is meant to address. The things you must know before you start a business. And as you can see, some of the things you will learn: how to find your business ideas, identify your target market, business finance and bookkeeping, branding your business, selling and customer retention techniques, and all of that. So please, if you're here, keep a date with us. It's on August 18th this year, just before the Growth Conference India. It's going to be free because we want to equip people with the tools that would help them to start their businesses correctly, to not make the mistakes that other people made. There's no point learning from your mistakes if you can learn from other people's mistakes and their own stories and their own journeys. So thank you once again, Weluche, for putting this together and for carefully choosing our speakers. Our speakers were all carefully chosen, and you guys just outdid yourselves. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you.
Thank you, Noella. Where's Emmanuel? Hina, we need to, I need Hina's profile. Hina has been here introducing everyone. She's the main anchor person for this program. Hina, thank you so much for a fantastic job that you've done in moderating the 2 days. I think you did the most job. Thank you so much. We really appreciate. So who is Hina Mystery? The lady that has been talking to us since yesterday, moderating everything, putting everything together. So Hina is a fellow of the Institute of Actuaries who has specialized in pensions consulting for over 20 years. Having graduated from the London School of Economics in Actuary Science, she has and continues to build upon her expertise through a career with Aon, who are a leading global professional service firm. In addition to her core responsibilities, her role also requires a deep understanding of budgeting, financial planning, and situational awareness, which are invaluable competencies to have in any professional and personal scenario. Hina has a passion for supporting the development and growth of new talent. And having worked from an early age with individuals from all walks of life, she's extremely adept in understanding and navigating any individual circumstances to ensure both a positive outcome and indeed a great success. Outside of work, Hina enjoys spending time with her family and traveling, which in recent years has, in addition to trips back to her childhood home in Kenya, included several road trips within mainland Europe and North America. There is nothing quite like the experience of navigating your way through unfamiliar territory when also entirely outside of your comfort zone. Having these global, cross-cultural, across socioeconomic experiences is something Hina has found to be truly inspiring, humbling, and has allowed for a unique perspective and outlook on all aspects of life. That's who Hina is. Thank you so very much, Hina. We appreciate everything you've done in the past 2 days. We look forward to more amazing collaboration
Thank
Thank
you.
you, team. I'm
Thank you.
so happy
All
you made
team-
me
all
proud.
teamwork.
God
Thank you.
bless you for your selfless service. God bless you. I truly appreciate.
Thank you. Can I ask everybody to put their cameras on, please? Let us have a massive group picture, something to remember us being at this event, at this movement. It is not a conference, as Noella said
My
yesterday.
hand
It's a
hurts.
movement. Emmanuel, may I please ask on your expertise to let us know when you are ready? And Weluche, thank you so much for those kind words. Thank you.
Hina. Hello,
All
Hina.
right, I'm waiting for everybody to turn on the videos, so please turn
Please
on
Hold,
your
do.
hold
video.
on, Emmanuel.
Please.
Emmanuel, please hold on. Hina, could you let our audience know our next stops?
Yes,
Our
of
next
course.
event stops.
Absolutely. While we get ready for the picture, right, we are in for a worldwide trip where it's around the world tour, Noella. That's what it is. So we are going to India at the end of August. There will be a growth conference in India. We will be sharing details of that with you shortly. There you go. Perfect timing, Emmanuel and Sandra. Thank you so much. The theme is going to be empowering her back to work after a career break, which I'm sure so many of us with our family commitments, with our social commitments have experience of. Personally, I went back to work after a 4 to 5 year career break, and it was tough, but very rewarding. So I'm definitely looking forward to this growth conference in India. After India, I believe our next stop around the world is going to be in West Africa, then Southern Africa. We then go to the far reaches of Latin America, North America, followed by a growth conference in Asia, and then in Gulf. So we are truly a global movement. Our entire team will be circulating details of all these conferences as and when we approach them, we're closer to them, we're ready for them. So please watch out for these. We have reached over 1,500 people so far. Our aim is much higher, much more global. We want to reach as many people and help and empower women, empower all genders, not necessarily, as I said yesterday, not gender specific, all gender encompassing. So when you get these through, please feel free to share with your contacts, put it on your social handles. And to all our speakers, we hope to welcome you again. We really look forward to hearing from you in other areas of expertise as well, I'm sure. Fantastic. Right, are we in a position to take a picture now?
Yes, we are.
Thank you, Emmanuel. I will hand over to you to count us down.
All right, so on the count of 3, can we all say the growth conference? 1, 2, 3. The growth conference.
Growth
Growth
conference.
conference.
Can we say that again? The growth conference.
The growth
The growth
The growth
conference.
conference.
All right. There we go. So thank you so much for being here. We're truly, truly, truly appreciative of your time. So, and that's a wrap.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a
so
lovely
much.
Thank
evening
you.
all. Thank you. Good night
Thank
and God
you,
bless.
everybody.
Thank
you.
you.
Aisha.